Hey there, everyone. Just give it still a little bit early, but we'll just wait probably about another 5 minutes before we get started. How's everyone doing?
Good, how are you, Jake?
Yeah, good, man.
All right. Can you see the presentation on my screen, the correct one?
I most certainly can.
That's good. All right, so we'll get started 7 o'clock. See more people coming. They should be joining, and we can go from there. Um, cool. I guess yeah. Thanks everyone for coming for webinar 2. I hope you had a great first week. Like for a course, we've seen some really great work coming through the homework. Didn't have a chance to, catch up 100% on the feedback. That's one of the points for tonight. Quickly in the beginning, I'm gonna be, doing my best to catch up on that overnight and also tomorrow before the weekend, before you actually go to, completing your milestone too as well. I think Jake did a pretty good job in marking his ones. I'm gonna do the same, make sure I can get on top of that. So the agenda for tonight, very similar to last week. We're going to be looking at the quick feedback on milestones, very high level, and then diving straight into the content review. So tonight we're going to be talking about 3 things. One is product vision, achieving product market fits, and then looking at the value prop canvas deep dive. And then we open for Q&A as well. Haven't seen any questions coming through Slack, so again, if you have any questions, you can either post it on the chat or on Slack as well. So yeah, milestones wise, fantastic job. All I think there were, I haven't actually done the calcs, but it looks like most of you guys have completed the milestone 1, which is great. There's some great ideas there, and again, as I mentioned before, we are aiming to be giving the feedback, before on the next couple of days, especially for me that I haven't actually been able to catch up on all of you. If you haven't really completed, again, ideally you should be completed on a weekly basis. That can help you kind of, not lose the traction or lose, the momentum with the course as well. It makes it easier for you to actually follow the content. Um, and also for us, easy to give feedback as well. And if you can post it on my channel, which most of you guys have been doing anyway, that's even better. I've seen some, peer feedback happening already, which is great. So yeah, just keep going with those. And again, if you want to send directly to us, again, it's also fine as well.
Yeah, there's definitely been some great product ideas that have been fleshed out, and as I've said to most of you guys over Slack, it's going to be good seeing how they evolve over time as you kind of learn more and kind of get more tools to add to more tools to add to your quiver, as it were. It's going to be really good kind of seeing how they kind of grow. So good work so far.
Cool, thank you. All right, so tonight, content review, we're going to be looking at 3 things. They complement really well what we've seen last week. So last week, as a recap, we kind of went through like what product is, what good products, what differentiate a good product and a bad product, what is the role of a product manager, and all those things. So tonight we're going to be touching on like product market fit, which is very much a good segue from defining what a product is from being a solution for a customer problem. But then how do you identify that you're actually addressing a real customer problem or a real customer need? So we're going to go through this. Looking at product vision, again, another, very important topic as a product manager that kind of dictates or should define like what, that kind of more strategic long-term view on what the product promises or the solution promises. And that's going to, again, influence or actually dictate what you're actually building in the roadmap as well. And making sure as a PM that you always bring it back to the vision as a way to sort of, control what you build, make sure, adding things that they're not really solving a customer problem. And lastly, we're going to look at Value Prop PM Zip Dive, again, which is a tool that you can actually use, to complement the work, to better understand from a customer perspective how your solution can address, again, those, jobs to be done or those needs for the customer. So if we move straight into product market fit, what we're going to do, we're going to be going kind of back and forth between me and Jake. We're going to give some examples, and then if you don't have any questions, you can ask along the way, or you can save it for later in the webinar as well. So product market fit. If you haven't actually heard of the term before, the slide is actually a very quick, summary of product market fit, but it brings back to some kind of really core stat around the fact that, there's around 42% of startups that fail, by not achieving product market fits. And then we think about what that is. Well, one is, various companies out there, or specifically startups, they might jump straight into a solution, like to solve a problem that does not exist. And they might come up with this awesome solution, beautiful design, makes a lot of sense. They have put a lot of effort in actually creating an experience that, would be delightful for users. But if that solution doesn't address a customer need or doesn't solve a problem, then there's usually, a case of, most or almost half of those startups failing because, again, it was either a solution that no customers were asking for, wasn't solving any customer problem. Therefore, they kind of cease to exist very quickly, right? So product market fit it's very much in simple terms. And this kind of graph here represents really well, which is a kind of sweet spot between a product that addresses or solves a large enough problem and a market that, is there as well to actually have that need or the problem to be solved to. And you can actually use that, the solution you're building, to scale that. So whenever you achieve a solution that truly addresses a market problem or a user problem in a large enough market, you very much achieve the product market fit. And it's a simple kind of term to explain in a way. Like, think about, okay, yeah, I understand it's a product that addresses a market, demand in the market or customer need and things like that. But it's a really hard term to actually really hard point to achieve, because as I mentioned before, various companies tend to focus on move very quickly from problem space to straight into solution mode or solution space. And then they don't focus on what the user actually really wants. So if you think about a process, right? How do you have a process in place that can help you achieve product market fit and not get you kind of, deviate from what you should be focusing on? So if you imagine like what we spoke last week, and I just mentioned as well, your starting point or ground zero here will be, there's a hunch on a user problem. There might be you have a problem in your life you want to solve. It may be that, you've been talking to a lot of people, they're sharing the same problem. So you got a hunch that there's a problem that needs to be solved, right? So the first thing you should be doing straight after that will be, rather than thinking about, I've got one solution that can solve that. And that's the kind of reason why you're doing those different canvases as well. So you should be kind of thinking about the testing potential solutions for that problem. And then through research, you're going to validate which one is the best one or the most fit for purpose for that problem, right? So through research, you're going to, again, research means customer development, going out there, talking to potential users or customers for your problem, understanding whether, the problem really exists, how painful is the problem, and whether they're actually asking for the solution or they have a need for the solution, right? If you do get the validation that there's a need for a solution, then you go more on to more this, building like an MVP, which will be like the minimum amount of functionality that you need to build to get the learning that you need that your customers will adopt the solution. And at this point in time here, you're not really thinking about too much around I mean, is this viable, or how we are gonna make money off this? It's more around, you know, is there a product that is desirable, like it does address a user or unaddressed need for the customer? And then obviously, if you're building an MVP, however the methodology you're applying to, either, you know, a simple working version of a solution that focuses on one or two core features, or, you know, just a shell, like if you're doing a, you know, a landing page of sorts. So if you're doing a product that, you know, it's a landing page that user can interact, but in the back end is not, you know, automated, for example, you can actually test whether the solution is feasible, right? So at this point in time here, again, if you look at the Gantt chart we presented last slide, you really focus on two things. It's around, is the solution desirable and is it feasible to be addressed? Obviously, you keep iterating on these. The focus is, you know, you keep, you know, engaging with customers, engaging, doing research to move from like a problem solution feature, then product iterations, which will give you like a more kind of robust or a beta version of a product that you can then sort of start thinking about, you know, really putting out there, start to think about scaling the product. And that at this point in time here, you're then going to be thinking about, okay, how are we going to monetize this? Is it a viable solution? And then again, if you do achieve this, if you do achieve that sweet spot between solving that unaddressed needs, we know it is a feasible solution and is a viable solution from like a, you know, monetization point of view, then it's a point in time where you see kind of the automatic or organic kind of adoption of a product or solution, demonstrating that, you know, there's a problem there for sure. Is large enough because, you know, there's various, you know, customers adopting that, and then you can actually scale that solution. So, I mean, it's kind of easier said than done, but it is a process that if you follow these, like around not jumping straight in from this point here straight into this point, and then finding that this, you know, this line here, instead of going up, it's just going straight and then down. So the process is like invest time on, you know, customer development, user research on the like point 1 and 2 and 3 as well, to make sure that, you know, you actually building a solution that can address an actual user problem.
And you also need to make sure that while you're going through this process, if you do meet a roadblock, it's just as important to understand why it didn't work as what it is to understand why it would work. Because you don't necessarily need to scrap everything if it doesn't work. So if you understand the why it didn't work, why it didn't fit, why it wasn't adopted, it will allow you to either tweak the existing product and then make it so it will work, or you at least understand what not to do for the next time if you do have to rebuild the product from scratch, or if you need to pivot a little bit more severe. So making sure that you understand the why throughout the process is very important.
Yeah, absolutely. And as pointed, like in the beginning here, as to research, the first step is you're going to be defining a set of hypotheses that you want to test and validate. And as Jake pointed, like it may be that, you know, if you set up like, you know, 10 hypotheses you want to validate, it may be that you got validation on 3, you know, and you can kind of scrap the 7. But the ones that you did get validation, you should keep using that as a basis for whatever you do next, whatever the iteration will be next. So then you're actually keeping the learning and actually optimize or iterating based on that. So there's another book that talks about this. Again, it's just another way to explain product market fit. Really interesting book. I mean, there's a hyperlink here to a YouTube video where, you know, Dan Olson explains the pyramid pretty better than I'm gonna try to do now. But so if you do have the time later, have a look at the video. I think it's about 25 minutes. But in a nutshell, he came up with a kind of framework or pyramid, as they call, to identify, to actually explain what product market fit is. And that's the product market fit pyramid, right? So in his own kind of words, the pyramid has basically 5 components. You obviously always gonna start from bottom, which is the market. And as I mentioned before, you know, there's a target customer that we, you know, imagine that they have a problem. And again, you should be focusing on looking at for getting understanding of those unaddressed needs. Maybe that, you know, the problems that other competitors are not solving today, which again gives you an opportunity to address them. Or it may be that it's a need that, you know, it's addressed but not addressed well enough. So again, there's another opportunity for you to, you know, deliver a solution that can do a better job per se. So once you actually know this, like once you know that, you know, there is a problem, there is a need that needs to be addressed, then you think about, you know, the products that you're going to be building to serve that. So the product will start again from the bottom. We're thinking around the value proposition of the product, like what, and the value proposition should again be based on those underserved needs, unaddressed needs for the customers, which is really much the promise of your solution for the customer. The feature set will be again on the back of knowing what the value prop or the promise to the customer will be. Again, the benefits you want to deliver, how you're going to deliver them, in a product. So it may be that a product that there's a need for customers to be able to find content easily. For example, if you imagine like Netflix, for example, they invest a lot on like how the customers can engage with content, discover content. Hence why the whole recommendation engine, all that kind of stuff is actually focused on doing a better job at driving users to consume more content and find content easy, right? So the feature set might be like recommendation engine for them, for example, maybe one of the key kind of functionality of the feature set of the product. Obviously the last layer is the user experience, which very much around bringing it all to life, creating things that can actually delight the users, not only address the problems but can help them want to feel like they want to come back and use the product. So if you achieve this, product market fit is when again whatever the value proposition for your solution, it actually addresses directly the underserved need of the market. So again, if you have a look at the video later, he explains probably better than I did, but a very interesting another way to look at product market fit. Maybe can help you as well with your think about whatever solution you coming up for your project. I mean, just one last time I can again hand it over to Jake as well for some of his views here. But I mean, in simple terms, like probably a better way to explain would be think about like examples that we can all relate to. And again, there's again another hyperlink to an article here. But examples of product market fit, which means that there was a solution that really truly addressed a customer problem, and then they seen that organic adoption or growth of the solution, right? So, and then the one thing common about this, these three key products I'm putting on the screen here, Slack, Dropbox, and Spotify, is that the MVP for them or the original solution was very kind of focused on, one or two simple things or one or two core things or feature sets per se, right? For Slack, for example, the core focus was around, creating like a simple way for like teams to communicate. They identified that as a key problem. I mean, imagine that email wasn't a effective and efficient way for people to communicate, specifically in like more like a fast-paced environment, either corporate startups or technology teams where there's a need for that kind of fast communication. You're always going to be kind of engaging with different people, cross-channel, like cross-department and things like that. So the base of their kind of MVP of initial solution was around simple team communication, right? Obviously that evolves over time, and nowadays obviously then they move on to just being simple team communication, which is then saying all these teams actually using different products and tools to do complete other jobs per se within the day-to-day. One of them being I'm using Jira as a way to control my backlog. I'm using either or maybe Trello to again control my design backlog. I might be using any other tool, I don't know, Roadman to build my road mapping and things like that. So the second point for them was to recognize that those tools, which they're not using in isolation. So integrations was a natural kind of next step for them. So by focusing on those two key things, specifically the simple team communication, they managed to get a very quick adoptions because it was just a better way to communicate. Dropbox was the same thing. Like, there was a clear need in market for an easy way to access documents anywhere, from any device. And they focus on that. And obviously, potentially, like, it was a really good time in terms of, technology being kind of ready to sort of deliver that kind of, solution. But again, they focus on a need that, was, pretty much unaddressed. So if you imagine how we used to, manage file storing and things like that with like USB sticks and hard drives and all that kind of stuff. And then they moved to, this can actually be, in the cloud, and we can be all sharing stuff, and you can actually create an account. You don't have to be carrying, a hard drive or, a USB stick or things like that. So again, taking a solution from another angle to serve the same problem for a user. The last one I have here, like as an example, would be like Spotify, when they kind of recognize again a trend in the market where people are more willing to, pay to access as opposed to pay to own. So if you imagine like back in the day, it was paying to own or to buy a CD or buy, LP or whatnot. It was kind of like a thing, or even to pay to own music in general, like with iTunes and things like that. And again, they recognize the fact that people, it was actually more value to the user to be able to access more content anywhere, as opposed to me, I have to then buy music one by one or CD by CD. So pay to own versus pay to access was a kind of key value proposition for their solution when they came up with. And the other one was accessing all music at a simple monthly price. Again, I don't have to be dropping $30 a CD, for example, if I only like a couple music for the CD, or I might even like other music related to the same one. So much better, access any like content all the time at a low price, as opposed to me, dropping a lot of money to own something that I might, listen once in a while, for example. So Jake, you have any comments in there?
Yeah, well, actually, I'm very passionate about Spotify because it's not only done wonders in the consumer market in providing music for everyone quite easily, but it's one of those rare products that's actually completely and utterly changed the industry that it fits in. So, for example, the music industry in general has completely changed the way they write music, the way they put together albums, the way they kind of do market themselves to what they used to. They used to market albums and you listen from one end to the other. There's a bit of a flow that kind of goes through, rather than say now that it's a collection of singles. It's fascinating. I'm a very big lover of Spotify. But yeah, a couple of examples that kind of come to mind I'll give you one for good market fit and one for bad, just as a bit of a comparison. Uber is one that kind of gets used quite well. It was almost born out of necessity from a challenge to a monopoly market. So where you had taxis that essentially had worldwide, pretty much, had a monopoly on transport, or transport that wasn't necessarily public. It kind of was a simple enough idea that ended up having a very quick and intense ramp up due to the fact that there was a underlying need, something that challenged the general monopoly of the industry, which kind of shows you some of the if you get that product market fit right, it kind of shows the impact that your idea could have and how quickly that it really can ramp up. So if you do the due diligence to start off with, it definitely helps. A recent example that I saw of not a good product market fit. Seems like my line's a bit crackly. Yeah.
Maybe switch off your camera. I think
yeah. Let's see if that helps. But, how's the audio now? Is that a bit better?
To me, it sounds alright. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I'll try and make it quick anyway. But the Telstra and Optus mobile leasing plans is a good example of product that wasn't done correctly. And it didn't really have a good product market fit. They just didn't do the right analysis on whether the market needed it, and concentrated more on what their business needs were than what the customer business needs were, and hence why they're now ceased doing that. So there's some good examples out there on how achieving product market fit and making sure that you get the right understanding of what your product is first and what it should be, before you actually go out to market.
Cool. Great, thank you. I'm just gonna check here. What is a good way to find a market for distribution where the products is not produced by sold only? Examples of distribution environments.
So sorry, just for extra clarification, are you looking as the product is the service of distribution? Well, well,
Yes, which is
yeah,
cloud.
cloud services. Okay, cool. Um, so you need to work out exactly. So what's, and again, it kind of comes into a bit of an analysis of what the current market is. So you need to kind of understand: is it a new product, or are you entering a mature market? If so, what value are you going to add to that market for the customer? So you really, and again, going back to say what you're doing. So if you have to sell Dropbox, oh, okay, yeah, okay. So not the actual service itself, but the selling of like the on selling of services. Is that kind of where you go? Yeah, okay, the on selling services. So it gets a little bit different to that. So it depends on how easy the product is, how easy it is to purchase the product as it is, and whether there is any value of you on selling it, or whether you're treating that product as a value added service to a broader suite of products that you're offering. So I dare say just on selling Dropbox by itself won't have much of a market, because you could just go to Dropbox.com and sign up, and there's no barrier to kind of get there. But adding a Dropbox subscription to, say, a business suite of products with, say, Office 365 or other services, whether it's some accounting software or something like that, would probably make a bit more sense. So, and again, that's more defining what value you want to give to the customer, and then working out what the market is, if that makes sense. I hope that answers the question. Well, yeah, if there's no barrier to get the service, but happy to talk about this in much more detail over Slack if need be. But we'll just continue on for now.
Cool, thank you. All right, so that's that's pretty much part one, create product market fit. So then moving on to like defining vision. I guess why vision is so important. Vision would be, as we mentioned at the beginning, would be the ultimate reason why you're creating a product in the first place. Is you want to bring it back to that long-term thinking of where you're going as a direction for the product, and that's gonna hopefully dictate whatever you build. And very much talks about thinking like, what's the purpose of the product, right? And you serve that as a kind of North Star direction for every action you should take to enhance your product. So if you imagine, as you develop a product and you put it out there and it's doing fine, and then automatically, as you go through, you need to keep evolving, shipping new features and things like that. And naturally, like especially in large organizations, you're going to have various stakeholders screaming to have all these different new functionality added to the product. And if you just keep adding new things, the small solution you create in the first place that used to solve the customer problem really well, it was a delightful kind of experience with no friction, all of a sudden it becomes a bloated kind of product, specific in digital, where it's hard to navigate, hard to find things. And again, that creates frustration with users using the product. And then you start seeing customers dropping a solution, start dropping all the solutions that actually don't cause as much friction, right? So the vision helps you to not deviate from, again, that core problems you're solving and the purpose of why I created the product in the first place. So, but it should also be used as a way to sort of help you identify and align your product vision or your product direction towards a future state where the problems you should be solving, you want to be solving in the future as well. So again, those problems might be keep solving the same problems but better. You may be picking up on a trend in the market or macro trend that might be dictating again what's the direction you should be taking. So I think I mentioned last webinar where, like, for us, it's looking at what are the new technologies, for example, that would kind of drive or help enhance teaching and learning. So maybe like, things like not just in education, but or any other industry out there when we talk about, artificial intelligence, like machine learning and, virtual reality, all that kind of stuff that, it's being taught today, that's going to be more and more influencing how like students learn and how teachers teach. So if you imagine, like, back in the day, you could not not have like an augmented reality piece to be used in class in a classroom. Or in future, it may be that a teacher cannot be present, but they might be, using an AR product that can help them be kind of physically in class, for example. So those things, again, is one of those things that, any education software out there, there's all these talks and thinking around that. These are macro trends that can influence that. But having that in your vision or baked in your vision can help, again, whenever having a conversation with different stakeholders, you can justify, why investing in researching like AI and how that's going to be integrated with your product solution today, because that's kind of where we can create more value, for example, in the future, right? So Jake, you want to talk about this one?
Sure. So one of the key things to do when you're defining your vision for your product is to make sure that it's specific enough that someone could understand exactly what you're doing, but it's broad enough where you don't back yourself into a corner if the market or the environment changes. But you also need to be very clear on who your targets are, what the customer needs are, and if need be, how you differentiate yourself from your competitors if you are entering a mature environment. So what's currently on screen right now is just one of thousands of different types of templates that are out there that can kind of help you clearly and concisely define the vision for your product. So for our target customer, so you define who your target customer is. So it might be for new parents, or it could be for telecommunication companies, or it could be whoever your customer is who has a specific customer need. So, and again, just broad stroking this, for new parents who needs to keep an eye on their children in a cot. The product is, say, a camera that is part of a smart home product category and has a unique benefit of being able to monitor your child and send alarms if anything bad happens. Unlike other competitors in the market, our product does blah, blah, blah. So utilizing a template like this will help you, at least for the first time you're kind of bringing a product vision to life. It will kind of help you kind of stay on point and make sure that you're covering all your bases. After you get used to it, and after you get a lot more detailed in how you do things, then you'll be able to kind of pull this together in ways that make more sense for your product. But just for starting off, this is a good way to start.
So great, thank you. So so then that one example, like why it's important, right? So if you imagine like any of those brands on the screen here, by having that kind of solid defined vision, that can help them, even like from a user perspective, if you identify yourself with the vision, it means that you're more likely to be, an advocate for the brand in itself. So if you imagine things like, like Patagonia, for example, they focus a lot on like, building best products, but causing no unnecessary harm. So if you are someone that, has a, environment conscious kind of consumer, but again, you're willing to actually pay more because that is a great quality product and is very much aligned with your kind of values and things like that. So this is how such a kind of strong kind of vision can help you, or can help brands even kind of retain customers, right? The same thing works for, IKEA, where the vision is to create like a better everyday life, and they focus on, supporting functional products that can help users to furnish their house at a low price, but quality products as well. Again, another very strong proposition there that, if you think about IKEA, going there like to buy products, you very much identify yourself with the brand. That can help again with the long term. And Amazon as well, where, from like just selling like, books back in the day to, being a place where people can come to find and discover anything, can purchase anything, and then they can evolve that to, delivering like same day delivery, all that kind of stuff. So finding the core vision can help, for example, these brands for like, even their physical products here, like Patagonia, not to divert if someone comes with an idea to say, let's have a, a cheaper brand that people can buy, that they might not be aligned to this. And all of a sudden you kind of devalue the whole brand. And then, the customers that will be buying Patagonia, they're going to stop buying that. So having that can help filter any kind of ideas that does not align with the vision. And that applies in the same fashion to digital products as well, as I mentioned before.
Yeah, and as you can see with all of these, they're specific enough where you could read them and you know exactly what the company's intent is, but they're also broad enough that if the market changes, they could pivot and change maybe the product that they're selling or their approach to solving that problem. So it's specific enough to understand, but also broad enough to allow for change, which is important.
Great. So again, in more like practical terms as well, because we're guys gonna be doing some kind of road mapping later in the course in the next few weeks, and I thought I'd bring that in because that can help you kind of contextualize, when you should be defining things and why and how they interrelate to each other, right? So it's kind of like looking from like an onion, like where you're looking from the outside in, and the vision is the kind of the first layer where, as Jake pointed. They have to be specific, but as in broad, they can help you expand, like, for the long term. So that would be like the first one, the first layer that you should be defining. And then there's obviously ways. There's the example of the format that you should be defining, a vision statement, for example, here. So that would be like the first layer. Once you find these, then you're kind of ready to move on to more, defining the strategy or how you're going to get there. And you can start, layering things such as like, developing your business model canvas, then defining the roadmap, like teams that you should be addressing, which again, given that this being defined, then it's a lot easier to make sure that division. Only once you do these things here, then you move on to more like the technical stuff for execution, which, you can then on the back of the roadmap, define the features, define what are the product backlog or they're going to be developing, and then think about other things such as like prioritization and all that kind of stuff. So I thought I'd bring that in just because it's more, again, practical to what you guys are going to be expected to be doing in the next couple of weeks around moving from, whatever the initiative canvas you have today where you're defining the value prop. Hopefully now you can use that, the format of the statement to define the vision for a solution whenever you pick that. And then once you've done that, then moving on to the roadmap will become a lot easier as well. Cool. So then it moves on like us to part 3 or the last bit of the webinar tonight, which is the value prop canvas deep dive. I think that it's actually the homework for milestone 2 to be completing the value prop canvas this week. So the value prop canvas, again, was mentioned before, you're always going to be wanting to start with the customer, right? Understanding the problem, understanding what are the jobs they're trying to hire products to do for them. And when you do this, you want to, you obviously naturally going to start thinking about how do we create value for the customer? How do we solve a problem for the customer? So then value prop canvas does help you clarify from the customer needs, how can you actually create value for them? And you usually like have like these two sides of the canvas. One is the customer profile, one is the value map. And the idea here is that you obviously start from right to left. And you focus firstly on the customer profile where, you understand like based on like, their pain points, what are the jobs, the customer jobs they're trying to achieve. And then in doing this today, what are the, the gains or that they have, what are the pains that they have in the gains. And on the back of this, then you start moving, once you map that out, you move on to the left side, which is, the value map, which then you start thinking about, okay, our solution here can address those customer problems there. And we're going to be doing this by creating value or by, alleviating pain. So that's kind of how I think about it. So you start from the customer point of view, jobs to be done, a solution that we can build to address this, and how can we address it either by creating value or relieving a pain, right? So very much is a customer development tool. It should be used as a way to validate assumptions you have between, a solution you're trying to build. And the key thing here is that, again, you should be using this tool to talk to real users out there and use and iterate on this as many times as you possibly can, as a way to sort of, drop some hypotheses or assumptions you had if they're not valid, but also add new things here to the point where you achieve one final version of your value prop canvas that can actually talk about a solution that can truly address a customer need, right? Or you can find that kind of fits in terms of kind of solution fit in terms of problem solution fit. So there's some examples here. I'll quickly just go through them. If you imagine like Uber, some of the jobs here will be, on-demand availability. Another one might be cashless payment or frictionless payment in terms of the trip and things like that. And then today, like what would make this service better would be service that is low cost, is available, most of the time, is reliable, and is fast, right? And the things that today with this current solution of the taxi industry, for example, will be one, it's costly, the processing time is not good. I have to be calling and waiting on the line to wait for this, so the service is not effective. I don't trust, not trustworthy ride. So I don't know the driver well, and security as well. Then it's very much aligned to that, right? So a solution to the problem would be, on-demand cabs per se. They're more effective. It's a one-tap ride where I can access from my phone. It's ride sharing, so again, it creates more smaller security where it's more trustworthy than a taxi. And one of the things is not mentioned here might be again cashless payment as to start with, right? And how does the solution then create value? I've got a shorter wait for ride. So again, because there's more cars available out there, there's always going to be someone nearby. On-demand cab availability, pretty much on demand, because the cars are a lot closer, and then lower prices than the current solution of the taxis, right? And on the other side, how do we relieve a pain? Would be hassle-free processing. Again, I can easily tap, book, pay everything within my phone. I don't have to be picking up my wallet. The cheaper rides. I can see the status of the drivers coming, how long, how far, and all those things. Cashless and was more reliable, right? So here in a nutshell, we can very quickly map out from obviously the customer profile, what they're looking for, and how does our solution is kind of achieve that kind of solution problem fit as well with the customer. And then the last one here, I'm not going to go through like this one too much detail, but another example of Airbnb, similar thing where, I just create a whole new industry around similar to Uber, just by focusing on those jobs to be done, how much they were unaddressed, or thinking of what are the pains that people used to have with the current solutions, and how does a completely new solution could address those pains and deliver a better solution there as well.
Yeah, these kind of tools help keep you honest and make sure that while you might be solving issues for yourself, it really kind of contextualizes exactly how you're solving a customer's problem, and are you doing something that improves their experience, or are you doing something that removes a negative experience from something that they're doing currently? So yeah, it's a very powerful tool.
Cool. So the canvas itself, as I mentioned, it should be used again, various rounds of iteration as you go through your project idea, and as you go through your initiative canvas as well, and as you do research, you should be using that as an opportunity to kind of keep iterating, keep editing the canvas, so you achieve to a point where that you got a problem solution fits that you can build a solution for, and then that's ideally done before we get to a point where you decided which solution you're going with, and then you focus on the MVP and features and road mapping and things like that. So whenever you're doing your homework, just think about that of using the canvas, just doing like a first iteration. But as we go along the course as well, and given that you're only submitting like a final project at the end, there's nothing stopping you, or you should be actually focusing on keep going back and refining, iterating as a way to, achieve a better solution, a better product you want to build in the end as well. Okay, so these were kind of the three topics we're gonna go through tonight. There's some examples that we use there as well. Have not seen any questions on Slack, but obviously, we're both more than happy to take questions now as well if you have. And you can either post it on the chat or you can unmute yourself and ask the question as well. Any questions, like just, yeah, jump on the chat and we got another like 15 minutes. So usually like we, plan out the courses to allow that time for questions. Okay, great. Mike is working out, but you suggested any sites to access data. What do you mean by accessing data? What kind of data, like market data or purchase history?
It depends on what purchase history you want, for example. Can you be a bit more specific on what the output is? Maybe context of how you want to use the data. Okay, market research. Okay, cool. So, so if you wanted to find your market segments, what kind of tools can you use? So there's some, you could try government sites. So depending on, again, the market you're going to, you could, there's a lot of publicly available data you can kind of get from various internal government sites. So if you type in, say, census data or something like that, you can kind of work out like a bit of a broad stroke of maybe who lives in certain areas or who utilizes certain services or who doesn't, and stuff like that. But usually the more specific the information you're looking for to define your market segment usually means that the more money it generally costs. But yeah, I'd start searching on government sites for like census data and stuff like that, which is usually all publicly available.
Okay, can you create a value map customer profile for customer group versus each customer type? Admin says user types.
I don't see why not. I would probably not do more than 2 or 3, but if you want to kind of get a bit of an understanding of how your product affects different types of customers. So again, if you have more than one specific market segment that your product is solving problems for, then it might give you a good idea of how it affects each one of those types of customers. But ultimately, I would still be kind of collating them all into one singular value map, just so you can kind of get a really concise view of the holistic impact that your product is having.
Yeah, and I agree. And if you're actually doing this, even if you're using like an online version of that, for example, if you got more than one market segment you're trying to address, you can actually use different like post-it colors, for example, to identify which ones are related to each other, type thing. But obviously, yeah, not going beyond I suppose 2 or 3, just because you want to. The tool itself is actually made to be used as a kind of one-pager kind of source of truth, so you can actually always look at it and iterate and build on it. It's like same applies to like a business model canvas, for example, where you try to capture, how you're going to deliver, what's your value proposition to which segments, how you're going to generate money, what's the costing, and then you try to englobe the whole thing in as a one pager. So the value prop is a similar fashion. But obviously, if you got completely different segments, then yes, then you can definitely use a couple or 3 to actually do that.
And you'll probably find that while you're going through and defining defining all your segments and how they and how you're relieving their pain or how you're kind of adding value to them, you'll find that when you get down to the core impact that you're having, it should be reasonably universal across all your customer bases. So, like, unless you're, for a specific product, it should be pretty universal. But definitely try doing a couple different, customer segments.
So there was another question here. Can you please repeat on how gain or gain creators correlates, or is it just a problem versus solutions? Yeah, so I mean, in a nutshell, as we kind of mentioned before, so if I go back here, on this side here is very much around the customer profile and whatever the jobs they're trying to achieve today, and then what based on the current solutions, what are the pains they've got with this, and what are the the gains per se, what are the positive side of things. It may be that like the current solutions have pretty much no pains if you identify that. If that's the case, then it may be that it's going to be really hard to get them to switch from whatever solution they have. So maybe, for example, if a problem is not worth solving, as they say out there, maybe the current solution, even if it's an analog way to do it, it's not painful enough. So again, if you were to want to build something that it automates that, but people have to pay for it, then it may be that they don't see enough value there. So on this side, he's very much around whatever the current solution they're using to solve or to address those jobs per se, right? Then I'll moving across to this one is more about how your solution, what is the value prop, and how that's going to either create value or relieve a pain they have. So maybe with those examples here, they've got things across both sides, not necessarily going to have a lot of things on both sides. Maybe sometimes it's more about solving a pain. Another times might be delivering like a gain or delivering a much better solution. But yes, it's very much they correlate when obviously the gains on this side here, they do a better job or they align with what the customers are looking here on this side.
Any other last questions?
Okay, so are we getting feedback? Yes, absolutely. Yeah, so as I mentioned at the beginning, I had a bit of trouble this week so far to catch up, but I will be catching up tonight and max tomorrow. So by the weekend, when you potentially work on your milestone 2, I would have given feedback across the board as well for all students. And I believe Jake already gave feedback pretty much all of you guys as well.
Yeah, and just to note that while we are giving a fair bit of feedback on milestone 1, it's mainly because it's important to make sure you guys have started off with the right footing. Some of the milestones you might get a lot of feedback, some you might just get like a good job, thumbs up. So it will vary week on week. So don't think that we're not reading them or maybe getting lazier as the course goes on. It just while you develop things, we may have less to say. That's all.
Cool. All right. So if there's no more questions, I think we can close off and then I'll see you guys on next week. And we're gonna be jumping on and marking feedback, giving feedback. And if you have any other questions, yeah, reach out directly or just post it on the main channel as well.
Yeah. Thanks again, guys. And yeah, I'll be speaking to you guys throughout the week.
Cool. Thank you. Thanks, everyone. Thanks, Jake.
Thanks. See ya.